the mockups. So these are four main structures which are very important in terms of learning Figma or UI UX or designing any kind of a product, or even these days you can design even creatives or posters for your college and communities and companies based on Figma. So it these basic bare minimum elements allows you to learn a lot about uh, designing and UI specifically, not a less of UX actually, because UX makes more sense in terms of user experience, and user experience comes when we do a lot of research and take out insights from that. But when we talk about UI, the UI elements consist of these basic structures. Without wasting any further time, let's move on to the first thing. So coming ahead, the first thing which comes in our mind is colors. As you all would be seeing, this whole PPT, or I would say the presentation, is binded with a lot of colors or gradients, I would say. So these are the elements of this is one of the basic element of the UI. What we see is colors. So understanding colors is a very important thing. I would request you all, if you are all are comfortable in noting down points, then you could definitely take out insights from what I am saying, so that would make you make this session more productive for you all. So if you have pen and paper, do note out whatever you feel relevant and important for you guys. So colors. So why do we use colors in our UI? So the first thing that comes in our mind is to attract people, to make it more playful, make it more uh, lively actually. So that's how the colors come into the game. That's why we use actually colors, right? Colors also give life to a particular structure. Suppose that I am making a box, making multiple boxes inside it, and just writing normal text over there. It won't make any sense. It will not attract users. It will not make good vibe to the users. So when we come into learning and seeing what could be a good and a relevant thing for the users, then we see how to use colors. Colors everyone can use, but colors also there's a very good psychology behind it. And believe me, in science there is in design there's science behind everything, and we should follow this science and logic, because when we don't, we actually misguide and mislead our users. That's how colors are important. So primarily, why do we use colors? I've told you. Now how do we use colors? That's one of the most important things actually. So how we use it is understanding color palettes actually. So what color palettes are? Color palettes are basically a few set of colors which are defined in a way that give a perfect contrast and balance among each other. They are not very they are not predefined in every case. You can even define your own color palette actually. Suppose that there's a very good rainy season going on in your area, or there's a very good sunny day going on. So if you suppose that you visit a forest, or maybe a sea or a beach, you go and click a picture over there. You will have hundreds of colors over that picture. Just see a particular area. Suppose that a particular sky, there are 3 4 colors in that sky. You can actually pick point those colors and make a color palette of that. Take the colors of sky and the forest area. So that's how natural color palettes actually come into existence, but that's not the exact right process. Color palettes are predefined as well. You can also generate color palettes to many resource websites, like what I personally use is coolors.com, coolors.com. So if you want to know, write it down, just note down. Coolors.com is one of the best resources for generating color palettes. So what we do is we take out color palettes, and then we whatever feels good to us, we use it in our designs. But why and how to decide this particular color palette? There are multiple types of color palettes we use. Like there are vibrant colors, there are subtle colors, there are dull colors, there are dark colors, there are earthy colors, there are various kind of colors. Why and how you have to choose the right colors? So when we think about this, the psychology which I was saying about this was to understand what our possible and feasible users are. So suppose that if it's an application or a website for a small 8 year 10-year-old kid, so what would make him or her attract more? Good and vibrant colors, right? So in that case, we'll try to use some bright, vibrant color palettes which are available on the platforms, or you are generating it even. So vibrant colors are feasible for shorter age group students or children. When we come to a little higher age group, which comes which covers us actually, the medium age people, professional people actually, from around aging around 18 to maybe 30 40 years of age, they prefer subtle colors. They prefer professional colors, the cut to the cut colors, not too vibrant, not too dull, just equal balance in everything. So for these kind of age groups, we follow some subtle colors which have where like not too much uh, strain on the eyes actually. So that's why we use like suppose that Instagram has purple and orange and yellow, all this kind of combination for that. They are not too much stressful to the eyes, and that's one of the best colors for the all sort of age groups. So that's how we use psychology behind using colors. If even you see this color which is on the PPT right now, so this is also a very subtle color. This is a gradient which I have actually made. So that's a color between blue and a green, and that's a whole transition between the color. So this is, you can make a color palette out of this as well, taking on the first point, the second point, third point, and fourth point. There would be four different colors coming out of it. But it could be a imbalanced color palette because there would be a less balance of contrast over here. Contrast is also very important in this case. So that's how we get to know about colors. That's how we use actually colors. This is one of the very very important things. So moving ahead, after colors, we get to know about shapes. I'm sure shapes are very common to you all, and most of you are even used to it. Understand what shapes are, how shapes are used, and shapes is a thing that doesn't require too much attention actually, because there are predefined shapes we actually use in a UI even. We use rectangles, we use circles, we use ellipse, of any kind of shape. We use stars, we use ovals, we use every kind of shape to represent different kind of things. We use circles to represent bullets, we use arrows to represent bullets as well, pointers as well. We use uh, we use rectangles or rounded rectangles to represent call to action buttons. So that's how we use shapes in our UI designs. Shapes are predefined in Figma, Adobe XD, and multiple design softwares as well. And shapes are also you can also create shapes by your own using pen tool or any kind of relevant tool. So that's one of the thing. Coming ahead, so shapes is one of this thing actually. Coming ahead about images. Now, what comes into your mind while thinking about images? What comes when you just imagine, just take a minute and imagine, whenever you go to a website, what does images represent over there? What does it represent? So when you think about it, whenever you visit a website, image is a part of that area of that particular website that attracts your major attention. If there's a wildlife sanctuary website, so they'll have a lot of images about their animals they are having, the birds they are having, the different wildlife creatures they are having. And that's one of the things that attracts you more, that incites you more to attend that particular sanctuary or attend that particular park. And that's how images play the game. Psychologically, colors have a very big impact, but images also have a very relevant impact. Colors have to be used everywhere, but images are to be used as selected places. You can't and you shouldn't use images at all the places in your UI, because uh, At some places, suppose that why I'm telling this, because there are different types of products in a product. Maybe a image is a very important thing. Suppose that you are making an e-commerce platform. In that particular platform, images is the one of the most important thing, one of the most focus action area actually. But when you talk about any other platform, suppose that you go on an analytics dashboard, suppose that you open Google Analytics. So would be images making sense over there? No, I think no, right? So images have a very relevant and a very good space, but you have to be very mindful and thoughtful about it whenever you use images in your UI, because this attract a lot of attention, and if that attraction is not worth it or not using a good call to action, then it would be kind of misguiding or misleading the user, right? So that's one of the most important thing that we should also think about. Images, why, how do we actually use images? What I personally do is I have that unsplash plugin in my Figma. I have to attach it to my Figma, and whenever I require any sort of image in my design, I immediately go to unsplash, search over whatever I want to make like add over here, and that's pretty much it. Unsplash is one of the very good open source free tool which has a lot of pictures, millions of pictures, and all are free to use. So whenever you need these kind of pictures or stock pictures which you are not able to get directly from Google, and I would recommend not taking directly any image from Google, because what happens is not every image is free copyright actually, right? So you have to attribute the photographer or the creator of that image. So in Unsplash, this is already there's a premium section as well, but yeah, in Unsplash this is very cool and easy to use, because these are royalty free sort of. So that's how we use images in our UI designs. Images can also be gradients as well, which I am using in the background of these PPTs. These images, these gradients can be used in your sliders, in your footers, in your headers, in very strong architectural basis actually. So images have a lot of relevance, but it's up to you how to choose the preference and the right place and right space for the image, how much attraction it is going to take for the user. So it's up to you to decide it and take decision on it. So I hope up till now you all have been learning amazingly, and if you all have any doubt, just keep your questions in your pen and paper. I'll try to address it in the later part of the session. So taking like normal break, just moving ahead with the next PPT. Typography. Typography, why and what is typography? Understanding what types are actually. So what typography is, basically in a very simple language, I would say usage of fonts. Fonts, what are fonts? Fonts are the very basic text being written on a particular area, right? That's it. Why typography is too much focused on these days, and why is it very important? You'll get this answer very easily when you open your newspaper or open any sort of website which is having different kinds of fonts, which is having a lot of information and data to showcase. So that's where typography comes into the game. Now, the previous elements which we discussed were kind of base elements, were on the lower layer of the design. But when we talk about typography, typography is the first thing that comes in the sight of the user, that's very visible, that's very dedicated and motivated towards the user to read it. The typography is successful enough if only if the user is able to read each and every sentence and each and every point you are showcasing over there. It won't make any sense if you write thousands of paragraphs, thousands of bullet points, and no one gonna use it or read it. So why, this is why typography is important. Typography is uh, the right usage of right fonts at the right place. Getting it? Right usage of the right fonts at the right place. Right usage is using the types at using the fonts at the right right density. There are, suppose that I'm using a font named Google Sans or Montserrat, so or maybe Arial or Times New Roman. So there are multiple hierarchy of that particular fonts as well: regular, light, medium, semi bold, bold, black. There are different kind of subsections, I would say, different kind of weight of that fonts. So these are called as font weights. Font, Google Sans Light, Google Sans Regular, Google Sans Semi Bold, Google Sans Bold. These are font weights, different kind of font weights. So right usage means the font right usage of font weights actually. So that's very important. That if there's a line which is not very relevant and you're making it bold, so it won't make any sense. The user will directly read that line and move ahead, because in any website or any platform or any product, not everything is gonna be read. It's up to you to decide what you want the user to read at the first glance and what user wants to read it by their choice. So what user on coming the on coming on the platform, what user reads, it's your design, and what it takes out from it is your typography only. It's that relevant actually. So right usage means using the right weights of the font. So wherever the priority is least, keep it regular or light. Where the priority is high, keep it semi bold or bold. Where the priority is medium, keep it medium or regular. So that's how we use the right font weights actually. Then coming ahead, right right usage, then the right fonts actually. There are various numerate thousands and thousands of fonts in the internet. You can download and use any of them. You can but what preferably I do is I mostly use Google fonts. I try to use it because I try to use Google Fonts because most of them are royalty free. And the second thing is it's easier for development as well. Developers are easily like it, you all must be knowing about that as well. Then thirdly, it's very well thought design in terms of fonts. There are a lot of factors while deciding and making a font as well. There are X sites and the font heights, the clear visibility of the font, the density, how dense the font can be, and its height, its weight, in its everything. There are a lot of factors while deciding and making a font. So Google actually does it in a much better way. That's why most of us actually follow Google Fonts, and it has a very good library. Just in case you want to explore it, just go on fonts.google.com, fonts.google.com, and you'll be able to immediately see a lot of fonts over there. That's why and how typography is used. Suppose that, now coming to a real life example, suppose that there's a, you go on a newspaper, you read a headline, right? So why is headline kept in bold and big letters? And there's a subsection subline which is in medium font, which is single line or two line mostly, and there's a paragraph. In paragraph also, when you see, there are certain elements which are written in bold and italics sometimes, not in every newspaper but sometimes, or maybe in different websites or platforms as well. There are, in a paragraph also, there are certain elements which are written in italics or bold italics both, that just to make that attention to that particular keyword. So suppose that I'm going through a particular paragraph, it's important for me to take a glance of that particular news or a headline. I'll take a second glance at the medium ranged second subline. Then I'll go immediately to the paragraph, and I suppose that I'm too lazy to read it. I'll immediately go and read the uh, pointers that are being bold and highlighted. A couple of best practices what we use in typography. So is writing points, writing things in broken chunks, using bullet points, using arrows, using drop downs, and not making too much information available to the user in a very first glance. So that's how user actually gets lazy and too cluttered for the user. So try to make it very uh, relevant and very cut short for the user. So that's one of the very best practices. Second thing is, never use full screen fonts in your design. Suppose that I am writing a statement, my name is Arya Prakash Singh, I am giving this session at this top universe, and I'm also elated to see the attendees enthusiasm over here. So from starting of the screen to the end of the screen, user will be very lazy to read that. That's the reason behind most of the blog websites having font, having the text in the middle part of that particular website. Go and check, this is a homework for you all. Go and check in all the news websites, blog posts, articles, even in research paper, why do we use two columns? So this, there's a psychology behind it, that it's easier to read line by line when the lines are shorter, but when a line gets a longer, you are likely to be distracted from it or likely to be not reading it. So that's one of the most important practices we should follow in using fonts. Never ever try to use a full screen font. Just reduce it and use it in the middle part of the screen. Suppose that just typography part, so use your font from here to here, nothing in this area, nothing in this area, because if I am distracted from these areas, I'll definitely not be able to read it completely. And that also give me a progressiveness inside, that yes, I am progressing immediately. So that's why I'll try to read more and more. And the moment I see a lot of a lengthy sentence, I'll immediately be distracted. So that's pretty much about typography. I hope I have cleared a lot of doubts for you all in typography. Coming to layouts. So layouts is kind of a very vague topic. Why I'm saying this? Layouts is in everything. Layouts refer to your structures actually. Whenever you construct a house, there's a brick structure that is made first. There's a map made first on paper maybe. Then we make a brick structure, right? Then we proceed with doing the plaster, doing the paint, and doing the full furnishing, right? So the what the layout is, that brick structures actually, that's kind of a wireframe as well. But yeah, layouts refer to arranging your structures in a organized way, so that making a whole-fledged product in an organized way, right? So that's how layouts are. That's what layouts are actually. So when we try to understand about it, that how layouts are gonna be useful to us. So that comes when we try to understand how are we going to use layouts in our designs. So usually what people do is start making pen paper structures, then we do a wireframing, then we do the high fidelity designs. Wireframing are often called low fidelity designs as well, because there's a lot of less uh, design based structures in wireframing, but more like structural things only, architectural things only. So layouts, what layouts is, having all the relevant sections of your particular website. Suppose that there's a dashboard having 6 different cards and a sidebar, right? 6 different cards, three, one, two, three, one, two, three, and a sidebar. So it's having it's a layout, right? But now what you have to understand by this layout is to make everything rightly rightly pointed out here, rightly settled up here. 6 cards can be laid out in different kind of ways. All 6 can be equal, 2 can be unequal, and 4 can be equal. 3 can be of different shapes, and 3 can be of different shapes. But the alignment and the visual hierarchy should be equal and good enough to be usable actually, right? So that's why layouts are important. We understand that we whenever we go on a website, there are certain call to action buttons. There are certain sections which are useful for us and certain are not. So the design is made in such a way that the user is focused on the particular sessions which are meant for him or her only. That's why you'll have to definitely be understanding about the layouts are very important in this case. Understanding each and every section and structure to be placed rightly well, aligned well with the other elements of the page, and most important thing is alignment and spacing. I'll come to it later on, but alignment is making things at the right place, making things equal and balanced in a controlled way actually. So that's how layouts are important. So I think that's pretty much about it. So moving ahead, components. When we talk about components is one of a very important and difficult as well. Components, learning components is not easy, but using components, believe me, is one of the easiest thing you can ever do. Using components is very easy. And once you learn how to use and deal with a component, you will be glad that I am saving a lot of time while using components. So that's how components come into the game. Components have a very important relevance while like whenever you see. So is my screen visible, right? We are able to see the blue screen, right? Components written.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, sure. Just checking if you all are paying right attention to it or not. Okay, so we have a lot of discussions in the chat window as well. That's really nice. That's really nice, guys. Keep on discussing, and I'll be trying to address it all in the end of the session. Definitely. Cool. So I was talking about the components. So let me have a look on some of it actually. So this is a material design kit of which is primarily made by Google, and when in the design community or in design terms, most of the people actually follow material design system. What design system is, it actually a library of elements and components, and basically guidelines and a protocols for particular designs that are used to be that should be used in a product or a platform. So while designing, one should definitely, there are a lot of design systems. This is just one. Google has its different, Microsoft has its another design system, Apple has its another design system. We have different kind of systems for every website, every company, and most of the companies which do not have design system follow some popular design systems, or take or purchase design systems from other companies or other design based organizations. So design systems are a guidelines or a set of rules for using right elements and right typography, right fonts, right styles, and everything in a right way. So when we come to understand about components, so there are different kind of states what we see. So there's, suppose that if we see about this filled button, so this is an enabled button which we see in a platform, which you see in a website, right? You're able to recognize it. Enabled button, right? When then we see a, this is the purple color is used to demonstrate components in Figma. So now there are a lot of states of this particular button. This is a filled state. This is the outline state. This is the text button. This is the elevated state. This is the every kind of state actually. So when we see a lot of elements being used, suppose that this is enabled, this is hovered. When is it dragged, it should be like this. It should be enabled, it should show like this. When it is focused, it should be shown like this. So that's how we kind of follow this. Fine. This is how. This is how huge the design system is. I know it would be very overwhelming for some of you because it's too much information for you all, but just try to understand that how things happen when there's a button which is enabled. It often looks like this, or maybe this, and there are different kind of properties which are visible in a particular website. So that's how we use them. So suppose that I'll show you an example maybe. So suppose that this is a switch, right? And it has different kind of states: selected state, false or true, disabled and enable, and icon false or true. So there are different states for this particular switch, and if we use it in our design, then we'll have to see that how are these states gonna be implemented in our design. So how we actually use them in our designs. So that's how components actually play well in, like, so suppose that if we take out this button and see how it is gonna be used. So if this is selected button, I'll click on this and this is selected. Suppose, see, this button is actually working like a real button, but it's not. It's just a design because it's other states are well designed in a library and a community. That's how we are able to use it and change it immediately in our designs as well. So if I'm using a non-selected button, it would be like looking like this. If I want to showcase a selected button in my design, I could immediately make it selected. If I want to show how it would be viewed if I am hovering over it, so it would be something like this, right? If I want to see how is it state when I press it, actually it will look like this. The button gets enlarged, right? That's how important it is. If I want to showcase icon, I have icon for that as well. Selected has tick icon, not selected has cross icon. So this is how components are into the game. You don't need to design components, but whenever you go on a community, a Figma community, and just search for material design kit, you get a free kit, completely free kit, get a lot of details, every kind of components, text fields, top bars, everything, all kind of icons and all styles for like completely free. Excuse me. So this is how components are useful to us. So without wasting further time, let's move further. I hope this was very good information for you all. Now coming ahead to spacing. Now I'll let me check if we have another thing for spacing here as well. So yeah, we what we do while designing a UI, actually, we try to make grids. We try to follow grids in our UIs actually. So there, by default, you can immediately select a grid and select the number of columns you want in that grid, and that makes your UI perfectly balanced and aligned in all tones. Like suppose that when we in our smaller age, when we were told to make a drawing, we were used to make margins in our sheets for making art or making anything on in the even in the exam sheets. Like what this is what we do here in India, but most probably you all will be familiar with margins and all as well. So using styles, using spaces is one of the very important thing. That's why we use right spaces. So what I follow personally is using 8-point system. So this is one of the theories. Do try to name and number every element in Figma or your design by eight factors of 4 or 8. Suppose that multiples of 4 or 8. Suppose that you are writing a text. So if its font size is 32, that's a multiple of 8. The next font you want to write in a shorter heading, so maybe use 16 or 24. That's again a multiple of 8. If you want to make another shorter heading or a paragraph, just write it in 16 or 8 maybe. So that's how we follow multiples of 8. 8 multiples of 8 system can be followed everywhere. While making a rectangle, You can use the width and height of that particular rectangle by multiples of 8. Maybe it would be in thousands, but yes, if you follow it perfectly well, believe me, your designs will be beautiful and picture perfect. There will be no one to pick out any point of out of it that this is not perfectly aligned well or this is not looking aesthetically good. Using right measurements is important everywhere. Even if you make or draw anything, you try to measure everything by scale, right? We try to measure everything in centimeters, inches, and then draw at anything. So why we don't follow spacing and right exact spaces in our UIs? It's important, right, as well. So what I personally follow is, and what I have learned from a lot of senior UX designers is using 8 point system. Just every kind of thing, just uh, anything in the design, any element in the design, even if it's a square or a rectangle, or if it's an icon, make sure its length or breadth and everything is in a multiple of 8. The spacing between them, the spacing between the cards, spacing between elements, spacing between a button, but different buttons should be either 8 or either 16 or either 24 or either 32 or either 64. So that's how it should be done. So when we follow this particular principle, try to use it once, and you'll be wondering that why I wasn't using it till now. So that's one of the very important things. Again, when we come to icons, this is one of the most important and deciding things uh, when we think of demonstrating things right in a right way, right? So icons are the thing that would be telling us and giving us an insight about how to use it, how to use the right icons actually, and why this particular icon. So understanding and using the right icon is up to your mentality and your thinking. What user is going to be relating to this particular icon. But when using the right icon is your duty and responsibility as a designer. So what icon system is to be followed? What's the thinking behind using icons in the right way? So what I usually do is I follow a particular design system which I already showcased you. Suppose that this is a material design kit for Google, from Google. So if I'll show you what type of icons they have already given us. Suppose that these are icons which are already provided them by them. So if you go on Android and see Google websites, you will be these icons would be very familiar to you. So they provide each and every bare minimum basic icon element for everything. There are certain plugins on Figma as well to download icon from different plugins, different design system. What I usually use is, right, if you want to write down material design kit icons and feather icons. Feather icons is also a very beautiful library for minimal icons, and it has a very small collection but relevant one. So this is one of the very important things while using right icons. What people actually do is take out icons from various internet websites like flat icon and free pick or any kind of website, and merge them all in a particular single UI. What is being done wrong here is you're not using a particular right system of icon. System of icons is very important because there are certain properties and principles being followed while designing icons as well, which make them familiar. So suppose that it's like a family. If you use if you're using two members of a particular family, you should use the rest three members of that particular family only. If you are using different families in a particular single UI, it would definitely look diverse, but it will distort the visual energy of your UI or your design. So it's very important to follow a particular design system while using or designing or making icons. Even if you are drawing or making icons, try to use a particular rule or a set of principle that if there's a height, this should be the exact height. It should not exceed this much. If there's a width or a stroke, it should be only this much. It should not exceed more. So that's how you'll be able to understand the right icons which I use. So moving ahead, input fields. Input fields again. I'll take you through here. I'm again and again taking you all through this particular board because I want you to understand with the live field examples, because I talked about a lot of information which is theoretical, but this is one of the practical informations which are useful. So these are kind of input fields only, what we have been using till now. You all have must be using these, but when we talk about input fields or text fields, you we all get numb and we are not able to understand what are these particular fields. But yes, so what Google Material Design Kit actually follows is they have particular states in this case as well. This is unfilled state, this is semi-filled state, this is completely filled state, this is error state that the data is not right, or this is disabled state. So these are different kind of states in text fields what we use. So there are different input fields having label above it. Suppose that there's a name field, so you want the name word to be written over there or not. So it's important for you to understand as well. Supporting text should be there or not. Understanding labeling that particular text field is important sometimes, but it differs from a product to product. So that's how there are huge number of variations, like light, dark, filled, unfilled, and a lot of variants. It's a huge thing to explore, and I would you all will love to explore it when you will go through it. Just search in the community section of Material 3 Design Kit, and you'll be able to access it completely free. So that's how input fields are used. There's no particular science or anything. It's just about your usability and what the other relevant data or details you want to use. Coming ahead, wireframing. Now, wireframing is one of the most important things here. What we do in our projects is when we make projects, and when we are keen to understand, when we want to understand that why and how are we proceeding with steps, and we are not finalizing, we are not sure about the colors, the fonts, the types which we are going to use it, we use wireframes. We try to design black box structures. We try to, it's up to you. Now wireframe don't have particular principle that you have to follow this agenda, this particular set of principles. Wireframes are a rough sketch of your UI. Wireframes are a first glance of your UI, a structure, again that brick structure what you are going to make of that particular house. So wireframes is a very basic map or architecture of that particular platform or a product or a website. So let me see if I have any of the wireframes. Yeah. So I was working on a project, and I had to make wireframes for it, and in order to understand and make usable things for them, and I wanted to pitch it to like, suppose that there are different iterations, there are different kind of variations. So I wanted to understand that what if we can do this, what if we can do this. Wireframes can be changed, wireframes can be reiterated a lot of times, and this is very important to understand. So suppose that this is a kind of a wireframe. You can use random icons, random text, random scribbling, just to demonstrate that these are the elements which I'm going to use in my platform or product. So these are wireframes. These are black box or gray color structures. There's no UI behind it. There's no particular, you can even hand draw a wireframe by yourself. So it's not anything like that, that wireframing is very tough or very principle based thing. Wireframing is up to your comfort and your concern. So that's how we usually do is wireframing is one of the first step while making a UI. So it's very important to make a wireframe so that when you come to making UI, you're not confused about finalizing stuff. That's why we use wireframes. So I personally use make wireframes a lot. Whenever I try to, I'm in doubt, I even make wireframes on paper, draw structures and make rectangles, squares, buttons, everything on paper. Take an approval from whoever is concerned. Then I proceed with the UI designs. That's how it's done actually. Now understanding prototyping. So prototyping again is a very good and a very important thing. So how we do prototyping is actually, and let me take you to this particular. Yeah. So suppose that this was the deck for today. I made it completely on Figma. So how am I controlling this with my left and right clicks? Is I have prototyped it all. So suppose that you are able to see this arrows which are linked together, linked to each other slides. So this is what is prototype. What a prototype is. When we see design, then we see prototype section over here. So prototype, what actually is it demonstrates about the flow of that particular website or a product, which tells us how is it gonna be used, how each and every element of how if I'm clicking at I'm Aryan, so there's an see there's a icon, there's a plus sign which tells us that I can prototype this as well. I can prototype this as well, so that when I am running its prototype, I can click on it and see what I have defined in the next design. So suppose that I have completely linked these artboards to each other. That's why they are, when I click on the next button, there's an interaction being fed in it. That if I click on click, navigate to this frame. So when I click on this frame anywhere, I'll be immediately navigated to this frame. So this is how it shows how we do prototyping. So there are various kind of options, even on drag or while hovering, while pressing, while entering, while everything after delay even. So there's a lot of different kind of options you can use. Navigate, open overlay that opens a small pop-up in that screen, swap overlay, close overlay, scroll to makes a scroll, and open link. I can actually use links and embed it in the UI design. So prototyping helps you understand how your full final product after coding will look like. So if you are making a website having 5 buttons, and that 5 buttons are different action usage, so you can immediately link that 5 buttons to that relevant screens and show that this UI, while on this UI, if you click this button, it will redirect you to this screen. If you click on another button, it will redirect you to another screen. So that's how it's done. Let me just take a quick example. Suppose that we are making this. Uh, okay, so this is my. So this is my button having hello, right? Cool. So I'll immediately group it and I'll copy it and we'll change its color to blue and text to white. Okay. So let's just prototype it. Okay, just let me create a frame for this. Yeah. So suppose that I have linked these two buttons. So now if I click, if I see that on click, it will navigate to this button. So I rather choose hovering. Okay. So if I hover it, I will be able to see this pie flow. So let's immediately see. So now you're able to see that my cursor is up over this blackboard, but whenever I hover over it, so the hover effect is applied over here. So that's how quick prototyping is, and that's how usable it is. That's how it makes us understand about why and how we should use it actually. So this is one of the very important things, very good and important things in terms of understanding prototyping. You can do a lot of wonders from it. Then comes mockups. Mockups again are one of the things that are to be used when you are showcasing something to your clients, or making a PPT for it, making a presentation, or just showing that how your design would look in a UI, or a particular uh, design, or particular mobile phone or a laptop screen. So suppose that we take this and try to understand how will my this design, this color look in this screen. Suppose that assume this as a design, a screen. So, okay, or maybe we can take a wireframe from this. So assume this as a design screen. So let's make a mock-up for this. So I'll click in the right side. I'll go for plugins. You can directly run plugins over here as well, and you can search for plugins here as well. So suppose that I have said mock-up in plugins. So there's a website for there's a plugin for mockup which I've already saved. So I'll be able to run the mockup for that. So there are chances that many of the mockup plugins actually work free of cost, and many of them don't. So don't worry if one of them is not working. You can find another one, and some are absolutely free and some are not. So it's your concern and your choice. So suppose that I have chosen MacBook Pro screen. So I in order to add this particular screen into this mockup, I just need to select this frame. So I've selected this frame. Now, so it will take time. I'll be needed to crop it, but it's perfect. So I'll click on the crop button, and okay, so it says that it might be slow, and it's a huge document. That's why it might be slow. So yeah, so this is a mockup that's perfectly made. Now let's just paste it in a canvas. So they are preparing a mockup, and once it's prepared, they will paste it on my screen. Now I can use a MacBook screen, design in my MacBook screen, and see what I have actually made in the perspective of how it will look in the real laptop design. See, so this is a MacBook screen, which is a mock-up actually, and I am able to use it or see it how it will look in my laptop mock-up, right? Similarly, you can make mobile designs in iPhone or Android screens as well. That's how it is. So I think this was one of the last things for the day, and I would be very happy to take up questions if we have sufficient amount of time. Otherwise, I'll be always reachable to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Medium, Behance, and Instagram as well as hashtag APS. That's my domain. That's my handle actually. So you can reach out to me with HASHTAG hashtag APS in any of the domains. Whenever you need any sort of help, I'll be more than happy to be of any assistance to you all.
Okay, thank you very much, Ariandra. Okay, Ariandra, I think there are some questions. If you can go through the chat, there are some questions. I don't know if you can see it.
Definitely. Definitely. Let me just pick some of the good questions. Yeah. So, um, Unsplash plugin you can find in the community. Yes. Then, isn't it bad to have two columns since you all have to move your eyes to the top again after reading on one column, which I think is a bit annoying for the users? No, it's not bad to have two columns because it's all about giving a perfect glance to the users. So what actually, this is what happens in the newspapers, right? So whenever you take and view a newspaper, the very visible thing is having they have a lot of columns in the newspaper. That allows them to read the news quickly, very quickly. So when you are able to read that news quickly, there's a progressive psychology in your mind that yes, I have progressed and processed this particular part of news. Now let's move to the next one. What comes into the psychology is that when we are not able to complete one step first, the first step, then we are likely to not complete the other steps as well. But when you are progressing in one manner, then definitely you will be reading the second column as well. So that's a psychology behind it. Okay. Okay, so we have Arin, how did you import the button components from material design? Yeah, so what we do while exporting the importing the button components from material design is you just go on the Figma community and search material design kit. You open that kit, you click on, there would be a button called get a copy. You click get a copy. The complete design kit will be replicated in your Figma, personal Figma. So when you open that Figma, everything is open and free for you. Now you can copy elements from that in your original designs. Just pick out any, just click, double click or triple click on that particular button, and you'll be able to select that single button and just control C and control V anywhere. Yeah. So scale in a multiple of 8. That's a very important thing. Everything, try to make everything in a multiple of 8. That's a very good point. Can we keep the spacing text size in multiple of 2? Yes, we can do it. In terms of mobile designs, it's very usable actually. But in terms of website design, we tend to follow more like using scale of 8 actually. But yeah, scale of 2 is feasible enough. But scale of 4 and scale of 8 is more feasible. So using 8 and 4 multiples are very good to have it. Is it possible to take out and edit a component without affecting the original components? Yes, you can take out any single component and just copy it and then change its state and maybe make another copy and change its another state. You can make hundreds of copies and hundreds of changes of states. So it's totally okay. You don't need to edit any of the components. You just need to select the states from the right side. You can detach instance so that so that's another thing, but detach instance is not necessary if you are not wanting to edit that particular component. If you are needing to edit that component, then you can detach instance. What plugins do you recommend to have? So good question. What we do is we try for images, I usually do have Unsplash and Pixels actually. What for UI, for images, for users, UI faces, and Pixels again, PEXELS, I guess that's what I recall is. And for fonts, there's no particular plugin that I follow. For iconography, material design, icons 8, icon scout, and feather icons. And for mockups, there's a mockups name plugin, mockups generator name plugin, and there are multiple plugins for mockups as well. Coming ahead, for elements, there specific names you can search for or via images. Also, what if you have an idea of an icon but you don't know the name? How can you find it for components rather than that are not elements? Okay, cool. So for this reference, I would recommend you to go through this material design kit once, so that it will allow you to understand a lot of terminologies used in design systems and design kits. So that's how you will be able to learn more about what sliders are, what toggle buttons are, what each and every kind of buttons we are using. So that's one of the very important things actually. So try to understand and use the right and just read the whole material design guidelines, which is very important, and that would make a lot of sense actually. So you'll be able to understand it and grasp it easily. So I think we have summarized all the questions. So let me know if you have any more questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Ariandra. Okay, guys, if you have more questions, you can drop it on the chat before we round up today's session. But if you understood everything, you can just type on the chat that you understood everything. But if you have questions, you can also drop it on the chat. And also, I dropped a link to Ariandra's profile on LinkedIn. So guys, please make sure you follow him on LinkedIn and on Twitter also. So I'm going to paste it again, so you guys can follow him on LinkedIn and reach out to him. Also, if you have more questions, you can also drop it here on the chat. Yeah, Randy, I don't know if it's possible, if you can make the material available, like the material for today, if you can make it available so we can share it with them. Yeah, as regards that.
The slide deck or what?
Yeah, the slides, yeah.
Sure, I'll try to post a link for that as well.
Okay, all right. Okay, I believe
I think,
everybody.
but the slide deck actually doesn't have too much of content. It's more like a verbal content only. But still, I'll post that link over here.
Okay, all right. Okay, yeah. So guys, the link is on the chat, so you guys can get it on the chat. So please go through the chat, everyone. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much, Ariandra, for today's class. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it on behalf of Top Universe. Thank you so much. So, guys, please make sure you follow him on LinkedIn. Make sure you reach out to him. Okay, thank you guys so much. Thank you, everyone. Bye, guys.
See you in the evening.
Thank you so much. That's very lovely of you. Thank you so much. Looking forward to connect with you all anytime soon. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank
Aranda.
you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.